Okay, you're right. So in this video we're going to have a look at how to find the circumference of a circle, and it's important that you familiarise yourself with the key terms that I've put in the box up the top so that we understand the words that I'm going to use in this video. And so where we're going to start is we're just going to start with the key relationship that relates the distances we use in circles, and it's the relationship that C over D, so the ratio between the circumference, the distance around the outside of the circle, to D, the diameter of the circle, the distance across through the centre, is always equal to pi. This is actually how we define the number pi. It's this constant number which always relates the distance around the outside of a circle to the distance across a circle. So where this relationship is really useful for us is we can use it to find the value of the circumference if we know the diameter. And the way we do that is if we rearrange the equation. So we start with our equation C over D equals pi, and what we can do is if we multiply both sides by D, so we can operate on the equation in the same way on both sides, and it will keep the equality the same, and we can tidy up both sides there. So we've multiplied both sides by D, so the left hand just becomes C times D over D, which is just C, and we get that that's equal to pi times D. So it's just rearranging the equation. Pi times D, and we're just going to write pi D because we don't need to write multiplication signs everywhere. And what this equation means is that if we know the diameter, we can determine the circumference just by multiplying that diameter by pi, which is something that we're pretty happy about. Okay, so let's have a look at an example to see how we can use this relationship to find a circumference. So this question says, a circle has a diameter of 4 centimeters. Find the circumference of the circle correct to 2 decimal places. So let's draw this to see what's going on. So we've got a circle and the diameter is equal to 4, so the diameter is this distance across the circle here, and we're told that that's equal to 4 centimeters. Always good to note the units there. So we have D equals 4, and we're trying to find the circumference. So the equation we're going to use here is C equals pi D. So it tells us what C is if we know D. And all we have to do is substitute in that value for D that we have. So we know that D is 4. So we can just replace the D in the equation with the 4. So we're saying that the circumference is just going to be pi times 4. And we can rewrite that often as 4 pi because we like writing our number before pi. It's like saying we've got a certain amount of pi. And we write 4 pi instead of pi 4 because it sounds better. So that 4 pi, that's an exact answer, and this question's asked us to find it correct to 2 decimal places. So we're going to use our calculator to do an approximation, and if we type in 4 pi using the shift button and the middle button on the bottom row of our calculator to get the pi symbol, we'll get that C is approximately equal to, noting that wavy equal sign for an approximation there, and it comes up as 4 times pi is 12.56637, and so on. That's our calculator there. And now to round it to 2 decimal places, if we look at this amount, we need to look here. So we want to go to 2 decimal places, which is this decimal place here. And so we need to look at the next digit to see whether we round up or down. Now that's a 6 there, so it's bigger than 5, so we're going to round this 6 in the second place up. So our final answer to 2 decimal places is going to be that C is approximately 12.57 centimeters. Always noting that we've got to put our units in at the answer. And that's our answer, correct to 2 decimal places for this question. Okay, so let's have a look at another question here. So this one says, the circle has a diameter of 10 meters. Using the approximation pi equals 3.14, find the circumference of the circle, correct to one decimal place. So let's draw our circle again. Always a good idea to show the shape we're drawing. So I've got a circle there, and the question tells us that the diameter, which is this distance across through the center, is 10. So let's write that down. So we've got d equals 10. Again, meters for this question. Always good to note the units. So the big thing to note here is that the question's told us to use a particular approximation. So it's saying we're going to use the fact that pi is roughly 3 and a bit, so it's pretty close to 3.14, and so we're going to use that as our value for pi in this question rather than the pi button on the calculator or leaving it exact. So that's an important thing to note here. So again, the equation we're going to use is c equals pi d, because that tells us what the circumference is going to be if we know d. And again, all we have to do to find the value for that circumference is substitute in the value that we have for d, and in this case we're told that d is 10. So we're going to substitute in that 10 instead of d into that equation, and again we can just write that as an exact answer, c equals 10 times pi, or 10 pi there, which is always a good thing to have that exact answer on your page. And from here, this question asks us to use 3.14 as our value for pi, so we're going to do that. So all we have to do in here is against an approximate value, so we use our wavy equal sign for approximately equal to, and for pi we're going to use the value 3.14, because that's what the question tells us to do here. So we're going to substitute in pi equals 3.14 and then calculate that with our value for pi. So you can use your calculator or do it in your head, whichever way works best for you. But we should get here that that value for c is approximately equal to 31.4, which is to one decimal place. And again, so that's meters. For this question, always need to have our units, and that's our answer, correct to one decimal place for this one. So just a quick summary of the things that we've covered in this video. If we know the diameter of a circle, we can find the value of the circumference by multiplying by pi, and we use the equation c equals pi d to do this, and all we have to do is substitute in whatever value of d we have, and then if asked for an exact answer, we can just leave it the answer in terms of pi, so 4 pi or 10 pi. Otherwise we use our calculator or a different approximation if the question says so to approximate the value. And make sure we always remember to include units, and to make sure to use the correct number of decimal places as stated in the question.